Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. Legislators stole 1 trillion naira, which is meant for constituency project fund, says President Muhammadu Buhari. Welcome to Spectacle, and I am your host, Daniel Atai. Of course, with me in the studio to look into this striking and disheartening topic is Mr. and Honorable Kennedy Angbo. Kennedy Angbo is a distinguished politician and a public affairs analyst. Welcome to Spectacle, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Pleasure being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the president has stated that the federal legislators misappropriated 1 trillion naira voted for constituency projects over the past 10 years. He made a statement at the National Summit on Diminishing Corruption in the Public Service, organized by the Office of the Secretary General to the Government of the Federation, the SGF, in collaboration with the ICPC on the 19th to 20th November 2019. He urged the National Assembly to fast-track the passage of the Special Crimes Court B as one specific priority of his administration's economic revamp and growth plans. The president emphasized that it is on record that in the past 10 years, 1 trillion naira has been appropriated for constituency projects, yet the impact of such huge spending on the lives and welfare of ordinary Nigerians can hardly be seen. He added that the first phase report of tracking these projects by ICPC confirms our worst fears that people at the grassroots have not benefited in terms of commensurate with the huge sums appropriated for constituency projects since inception. The summit should be noted to have been organized by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, the chairman of the ICPC, also Professor Bolaji Owansoye, and the board of the ICPC. The president said the summit is a reflection of one of the 3 key priorities of his administration, which is to enhance the fight against corruption as contained in the government governance roadmap, the Nigeria Economic Recovery and Growth Plan of 2017 to 2020. And he said, as I have repeatedly said, corruption is the cause of many major problems in our country. It is a catalyst for poverty, insecurity, weak educational system, poor health facilities and services, and many other ills of our society. This government is working hard to overcome such ills. Corruption generally and public sector corruption in particular inhibits the ability of government to deliver infrastructure and basic services to the people. That is why I have reiterated on many occasions that corruption is an existential threat to Nigeria. Corruption is furthermore a major threat to the attainment of the sustainable development goals and the socio-economic transformation we are all working hard to bring about in Nigeria. Now, that is the preamble of what Mr. President said yesterday at the summit organized by the SGF and the ICPC. And it is disheartening, Mr. Kennedy, to note that 1 trillion for constituency project fund has been embezzled in the past 10 years by the National Assembly. And could this be the factor why development is not seen at the rural areas?
Thank you so much for that question. You know, what that effectively means is that in the last 10 years, annually we've been losing 100 billion naira.
1 trillion. Okay, 100 billion
naira for the last 10 years.
Okay.
That gives you about 1 trillion naira if you put that together. And so the question now is that how much have we lost in terms of not just the value of the money of 1 trillion, but how much have we lost in terms of social economic impact on the lives of the average Nigerians? And that's where the question should be directed at. Now, if you look at it, the fact that 1 trillion naira has been misappropriated by people at the National Assembly who ordinarily are meant to be there to represent you and I for the benefit of the generality of Nigerians, have sat down there and made a force out of that constituency project. And I believe that this is a wake-up call to Nigerians. We need to begin to question the characters that we send to represent us. Because what it simply means is that people who have been given a certain amount of money to develop our health sector, to develop our education, have not done so effectively. And so that is a great challenge for us. At the bedrock of it all, it tells you that there's a systemic problem. Because corruption is so endemic such that it affects every facet. And I believe that there's a chain reaction around all of this. So imagine injecting 1 trillion naira into the economy, into the different constituencies that this money were meant for.
Yeah.
But then these legislators decided to siphon the money. And you know what? What I've discovered over time is that the problem of poor leadership, it doesn't only stem from lack of education. It stems from poor attitudinal thinking, where people think that you need to make money so that you can measure up in society. Nobody is going to measure any politician based on how much you have accumulated, but will measure you based on what you have done for your people.
Exactly.
And that is why I think that beyond just telling us that we have 1 trillion naira has been embezzled, I think what the ICPC I'm glad that this SGF organized it in collaboration with ICPC.
Yes, Boss Mustafa.
Yeah, and I believe that
chairman of the ICPC.
And I believe that relevant agencies should be invited to investigate how these monies were misappropriated, who took part in this, and because this is a major scandal. It should be noted that in certain, even recently, I think, I'm not sure if it was in Kenya or so, not Kenya. There's a country where the people have abrogated their legislative arm. Where the people said, listen, the amount of money that these people are consuming, as it affects the national growth
is Niger. Niger, they boycott the.
And so now they don't have that assembly again. But do we? I'm not saying that the National Assembly should be proscribed. No, we need the National Assembly because the National Assembly is there for a purpose. It's supposed to check the excesses of and make laws and then check the excesses of the executive.
Over 10 years, who were the leadership of the National Assembly when this crime was said to be committed?
Now, if you go back 10 years ago, you would notice that that was we're talking about 2009.
Yeah, it is 2019.
Yeah,
2009
till date will be. So you'll be looking at. I think the Senate president then was Senator David Mark.
Senator David Mark.
The speaker. And he was there up until 2000.
His vice was Ike Ekweremadu.
Yes, and so at the House of Representatives,
we have Aminu Tambuwal.
You had Aminu Tambuwal as the speaker then.
Yeah, Tambuwal, and
you
have Dogara. Ihedioha.
Yes, and then Dogara was there also. So those were the two officials,
and then to the inception of Buhari's
this regime too. We have
Saraki,
Bukola Saraki, and Ike Ekweremadu, and then before we now have
Lawal.
Yes.
Which Lawal is that?
The current Senate president.
No. Well, before Lawal, the first
first term of the president was Bukola Saraki.
Bukola Saraki
at the.
And who was his deputy then?
It was
Ike Ekweremadu.
Yes.
And then we have the House of Rep again. We had
Dogara.
Dogara.
Yeah, and and then he was deputized by.
I've forgotten. On the course of the discussion,
deputy then.
Yeah, well, that is
that's the guy from Lagos State.
Senator David Mark from 2007 to 2015. Then his vice was Ike Kweremadu, and then you have Aminu Tamboa at the House of Representatives. Now, and then you have Saraki, Ike Kweremadu.
But then it goes beyond just these people. We have people you call principal officials.
Yes,
and
yes.
now that include chief whip, minority leader, and all of those,
and various committees, that forms.
But we cannot sit down here.
Mm.
We cannot sit down here and say who really took part in it until there is a thorough investigation.
The ICPC will go into it
until they come out and tell us who were those that were behind it. Nobody has any facts right now.
Exactly.
So I believe that in order to remove the cloud from what is going on right now, ICPC, EFCC, the police need to swing into action and give us a detailed analysis, forensic analysis of what transpired, who got what, when, and how.
Even from 1999, I don't know about your constituency. Do you think that this constituency project given to lawmakers, they are in collaboration or with the governors of the states? Or the lawmakers are supposed to go and take care of their constituency project, isn't it?
You know what we have done. We didn't from the inception. We didn't have constituency projects in our national lexicon. It was Obasanjo who introduced constituency projects.
Okay.
After his first term, and that was so that he could use that to buy the legislator. Remember that he almost got impeached. Yeah. And so he inserted that so that he can pacify certain interests within the National Assembly. Mm-hmm. And so we need to understand why this constituency project came
But is it wrong to have a constituency project?
It's not wrong.
As an oversight function?
The concept of it would have been good. Now, if you remember, one of the things that the last administration did, that's the administration of President Goodluck Jonathan, he set up a ministry called Special Duties Ministry.
Yeah.
And under Special Duties Ministry, it falls within its purview and supervision for them to oversight or work in tandem with the National Assembly on the constituency project. But you see, the problem is this: now we are only pointing finger at the National Assembly. We do not know the extent to which the executives are involved. And I'm coming because I need to lay the background for you.
And don't forget the state levels too.
Yes, because when you say constituency project, ordinarily
for lawmakers,
the payment is not, monies are not given to the lawmakers to do that. Ordinarily, it shouldn't be. Now, this project should go through the office of the Minister of Special Duties. He is the one who coordinates that. Because if you know, the legislators do not execute.
I know that.
It is the executive.
But the oversight.
Yes. But that is where the legislators now smuggle in what they want to do for their constituencies. And the reason for that is that they feel that because they are the closest people to the grassroots,
yes,
and the people who send them,
yeah,
they feel that the process of constituency project is to help them reach out to their people in terms of the needs of their localities.
Yes.
But what we have done is that because there is no proper checks and balance, no monitoring and evaluation, nobody is giving us situation report as to how much was injected and what was the yield upon that investment. So it becomes difficult for us to track the progress of such projects. So what I think we need to do moving forward is the fact that we need to first of all identify what the projects are, because if you look at
let me come in here. I have been there as a councillor. Project fund, they are constitutional from 1999. That is to be given to the office of the legislator in all the tiers of government. At the state, you have the state assembly. The state assembly lawmakers are being given constituency project fund. Certain amount based on the budget of the local government and the budget of the wards. Now, if as a councillor, for instance, the business and order of the legislative calendar has stated that each council should be given 3 million, minimum of 3 million, for instance, for their oversight function to enact at least one constituency project for the people who voted you. This money is released to you directly to go and carry out, but you have an evaluation team. The problem now is some governors and some local government chairmen don't release this fund at all.
So that's the point I was making. Because the National Assembly does not appropriate, they do not execute, they pass laws. It is the executive who gives money or releases funds for appropriation.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you brought your experience. And you discovered that you couldn't appropriate money by yourself.
Yes,
the chairman has to give the money to you.
Yeah.
But what we're saying is that within the context of what we're saying, of this 1 trillion naira, obviously the awards of contracts would be in collaboration with all the parties involved, which is the office of the executive and the legislature, or the legislator as it relates to specific constituency project.
Yes.
And then you now get people to bid for the project. But first of all, you need to identify what the projects are. After you identify them, then you now call for bidding, which is due process. Of course, we know people circumvent all of that process. But then you should have a semblance of that. And after that, people now are picked as qualified contractors to go and execute the projects. It's on that strength that the contractor would be mobilized by the executive to go and do the job. Then the executive, the legislator now comes and oversight what has been appropriated.
Yeah.
So what we have seen is that there is a collusion, because the National Assembly or the executive cannot go and dip money. The legislator cannot go and dip money in the bank.
Yeah.
Money has to be released from the banks through the executive to that project. And so I can tell you for a fact that it's not only the legislature that is involved in this.
Of course.
Because if the legislators does that, or the legislature does that without the collaboration of the executive, there is no way this would not have come up early enough.
So deliberately, a legislator would allow his people, when given such huge amount of money, deliberately.
Let's look at it. Let's fact check. So you have heard of a senator from Niger Delta. I mean, maybe I should call him, or I shouldn't call him. Who has gotten? I mean, he got 300 jobs, contracts from NDDC. A senator, and on a monthly basis, he's paid 1 billion naira. And out of the 300 jobs he got, payments for 120 of those had been fully paid, and without any execution of any of those projects. That is a dilemma in which we have found ourselves as a country. But what are we doing about it? But you see, I think that when issues like this are blown up, the problem is that most times the average ordinary citizens that these projects are meant for pay no attention to what is going on.
I'm telling you.
And they are aloof. And so we are the most docile people.
And they are still the ones that will still campaign for such people.
And we would go and even defend these people.
So what do we, Mr. President have given the ICPC and other authorities to investigate this money. So what are your suspicions now?
I don't have any suspicion, but I have expectations.
Okay.
My expectations are that, one, thorough investigation should be carried out. That means the office of the Attorney General should also not shield anybody, should they find that certain people who are close to them are also involved. Because when you're done with all of this, it should get to the office of the Attorney General. So you can see it's a whole web of connection. And with all this web of connection, everybody who has a role to play must play their role efficiently, effectively, and transparently.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Kenneth. I will come back after this short break, and when we come back, I'll be asking you which way forward can Nigeria still be better and get out of corruption. And do you see party politics or affiliation fighting, the fight against corruption? Stay tuned with us. This is still Spectacle. After this short break, we'll be back.
The issue here we have to begin to look at is that at the time of independence, I don't know if there was a trajectory to where we are going to.
But how could it be that credible, free and fair under manual conduct of election?
That is where our problem lies, and that is why people are now saying that, advising that we should move, that the world has gone into digital. We should move from the manual to the digital.
We cannot keep doing same thing and expecting a different result.
The only way you create jobs from your ministry is that you have to encourage local content.
If you look at the profile of Sally Mama, there is a caveat in this leave given to him. He should seek medical help if he's fine.
Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. Yeah, you're welcome back. This time around, I think we just have like 8 to 10 minutes more to go. And if you have any contribution from your end to contribute as you're watching us live, please call the numbers displayed on your screen. Before we went on that break, I was saying, do we have hope of getting out of corruption so that our country can develop? Do we have that hope?
There is hope. So long as we have breath, there is hope. But as the people must agree what will be the modus operandi on dealing with corruption. Until we forge an agreeable terms and standards for dealing with corrupt people and corruption, we will probably remain and be discussing these issues for the next 2 decades, 3 decades, and all of that. But if we can draw experience from a number of countries that have decided to deal with the issue of corruption headlong, then we would understand. I am one person who has advocated that. I know some people call that is an extreme measure, which is the Chinese style,
okay,
where it doesn't matter who you are, who you were, so long as you have been fingered in any corruption cases, you will pay for it. In fact, it got to a point where even your entire family would also pay for it. And that was the kind of thing. Go and read. You see, when we make references to developed societies or countries that move from third world to first world countries, we forget to mention the processes and what they did. If you read the account of Singapore, for example, the then leader, Lee Kuan Yew, a lot of us now utilize him, but we didn't know that he was a brute. He used brute force. I mean, if we're talking about, let's even come to Africa here. Go to Rwanda that we're all revering right now.
Yeah.
Rwanda has
Nigerians like to revere quickly.
Exactly. Nigeria has a very stringent condition or penalties for
against corruption.
And so because what we have done is that we look at the other issues that do not bother on those who commit corruption, and we give capital punishment. I mean, if we are propounding hate speech to attract capital punishment, what forbids us from propounding the same capital punishment for corruption? Because that is a greater. So let me give you a scenario. So you are giving 100 billion naira or 10 billion naira to construct road within your constituency, and you fail to do that. Just over the last weekend, I went to my local government. I went to my state, and a road that used to take 1 hour, because it's 109 kilometers, that should take you less than 1 hour, takes you 3 hours to get to Otukpo from Makurdi, because the road is bad. And so you see cars submerged, not underwater, but under ditches. And this is the problem, where people are giving money to build trunks, roads and all that. They don't do that. But the problem, and then we forget to realize that countless numbers of people are killed. And I think in the last 10 years that we have talked about, over 20,000 Nigerians have been killed.
You're talking about 10 years. It's from 2016 to this 2019.
Okay,
over
so
20,000
that was exaggerated
died from road
pessimism.
accident. 20,000
Optimism.
statistics.
So you can imagine that. So who would be held liable for that? That is mass murder.
Mass murder.
If you ask me.
And deliberate
but somebody
terrorism.
was giving money to do those roads. But they decided to use that to build mansions on hills and build mansions on valleys.
And in Dubai.
So,
in US, in Switzerland.
So they need to begin to and send their children and their girlfriends all over the world.
And they have
at the expense of developing our place. I mean, if you look at, we do not our healthcare system is
capital punishment.
That is the only solution that will deal with it.
So the president and the 9th Assembly should.
But you know how why we can't get
capital.
that? You know why we can't get that?
Religious
the
factor?
people who would, first of all, let's look at this. So what you were asking about those who colluded with the National Assembly. We mentioned the executive, we mentioned state governors and the rest.
Yes.
Now, if you look at the composition of the current National Assembly, most of the governors who served and finished their terms and now the people legislating for you. So do you think they will pass a bill like that? So I do not think that the National Assembly also have the moral rectitude to be able to give you that kind of bill. What we need to do, it has to be generated by what I call the office of the Nigerian citizens.
Good.
Until the Nigerian citizens decide that this is what we want. We want capital punishment. It's either you give it to us or we'll chase out all of you out of that place.
How do we do this now without the help of the National Assembly? How do we do that?
Okay, so one of the ways you to do this, and I've forgotten which of the countries, only yesterday, the legislators were forbade from having access into their National Assembly.
Okay.
I think it was one of these countries.
Is it Hong Kong?
No, Hong Kong is there, but that is a different country, where protesters stopped people, the legislators from gaining entry into.
You mean civil action?
Civil action, obviously, civil action.
All right.
Because whether you like it or not, there is what you call the dictatorship of the majority.
Yeah.
And that majority is the citizenry. The people who elected those 300
But do Nigerians, do they know this, especially the youth who still carry guns to fight for these politicians, to even die for them,
carrying guns is an offshoot, direct offshoot of the denial of what is was supposed to be bequeathed to these young people by this same class was saying embezzled 1 trillion naira.
1 trillion.
And unfortunately, they use this money to buy up arms. I mean, we saw. I mean, the former governor, the immediate past governor of Ogun State, Senator Bikunle, bought ammunition that he did not even got approval from the NSA. Where do you think those ammunitions and arms got into? Whose hands do you think it got into?
Anyway, you've proffered one solution, like civil action and then the National Assembly. And if the leadership of the National Assembly, even at the expense of the fact that some governors are now senators and rep, I don't think any governor went for rep. Are now senators. At their expense, still go ahead to, sponsor a bill, let's say executive, legislative bill to, legislate capital punishment, especially death penalty.
And I'm glad
on corruption.
I'm glad that you brought this issue up, because I think the only person who has the political guts to send a bill of this nature, apart from the civil society and the Nigerian populace, is the president.
Apart from private bill or societal bill, it has to be
president.
Exclusive
Because
legislative bill.
I can tell you that the National Assembly will shoot down any voice from within them. I mean, you saw what they did to Senator Shehu Sani when he said to the Nigerians, for the first time that we got to know that about 15 million naira was the take-home pay of a legislator per month. You saw what happened to him. So I think that if the president is really serious and he wants us to take them serious, which I know the president is serious about dealing with corruption.
Are you saying 15 million naira?
Yes. He said that's their pegs.
That is allowance.
Yes, allowance.
Because their pay that I know is 35 million.
So
for the senators and 25 million for the reps.
So I'm talking about, I'm quoting Senator Shehu
Okay,
Sani now.
probably
that's something I can quote.
It's okay.
So I think that if the president is serious, and I know he is, he's a man who is true to his word, and I know he's one person who wants to deal with corruption. I think he should sponsor a bill. Then we would know
an executive bill
to the National
like
Assembly.
the one he asked them to pass now.
And they should transmit it like then we will know those who do not mean well for Nigeria, because we need to know those who will say ayes for the bill and those who will say nays for the bills.
All right. We want to know those at the National Assembly who will say aye for the capital punishment for corrupt practices bill, and those who will say nay. This is where spectacle will stop today. Join us tomorrow for another spectacular episode. I've been your host, Daniel Atai, and thanks for watching. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai.